Frank Silvera. Born in 1914, Silvera spent 36 years convincing Hollywood he could be anyone, anywhere. Black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Frank was a one-man United Nations of acting. His chameleon-like talents earned him a Tony nomination in 1963 for The Lady of the Camellias, but on June 11, 1970, he took his most shocking role yet, shock victim. Imagine this. Frank is in his kitchen, probably learning his lines, when he notices the garbage disposal is acting up. Being the versatile guy he was, he thought, why call a repairman when I can play one? So there's Frank, 55 years old, bent over the sink, tinkering with the disposal. Maybe he was trying to act as a plumber. Maybe he thought he could charm the appliance into working. Either way, he forgot the golden rule of home repair. Always unplug first. One touch of a wet wire, and our man Frank went from star of stage and screen to conductor of electricity. Speaking of shocking performances, Les Harvey. This was the kind of guy who made guitars weep and the audience cheer. He jammed with Led Zeppelin, rocked with Cartoon, and finally found his home with Stone the Crows. But on May 3, 1972, at the Swansea Top Rank Suite, Les gave his fans the most electrifying performance of their lives. Most guitarists worry about hitting a bum note. Les? He hit 240 volts. One touch of that mic, and Les went from Stone the Crows to shock the crowd in 0.1 seconds. The audience thought it was all part of the show. Wow, look at that solo! He's really on fire tonight! Well, he kind of was. At 27, he passed away. Just remember, in rock and roll, it's better to be amplified than electrified. Vic Morrow. Born on Valentine's Day in 1929, Vic was an American actor who waged a valiant battle on TV's Combat and emerged with an Emmy nod for outstanding continued performance by an actor in a series, only to face Hollywood's most dangerous game of how not to stage a scene. Fast forward to 1982. Vic had navigated faux wars on TV sets for almost 3 decades, dodging scripted bullets and dramatic explosions, but his most dangerous role was in Twilight Zone, the movie, where reality decided to get a little too, well, Twilighty. On the set, as Vic was filming a Vietnam scene, the director shouted, "Action!" And suddenly, it was raining helicopter parts. Yes, you heard that right. Vic Morrow's last scene was less about acting and more about avoiding a low-flying chopper's blades. Vic, along with 2 child actors, Renee Shin Chen and Micah Din Lee, met their unfortunate end. John Eric Hexum. Born in New Jersey on November 5, 1957, John worked his way through college sweeping streets, but he didn't know he was just rehearsing for his future of cleaning up Hollywood. In 1982, he scored big with Voyagers, a show about time travel. Ironic, since he could have used a time machine himself later on. Next, he went from playing football star Pat Trammell to starring in Cover Up, and followed this up with a role in The Bear. But unfortunately, he couldn't bear the boredom on set. In a moment of misguided playfulness, Hexum put a prop gun loaded with blanks to his head and pulled the trigger. Turns out, in Hollywood, even fake bullets have real consequences. He really brought down the house and the entire production. Now, every prop gun in Hollywood comes with a John Eric Hexum Memorial Safety Manual. If you thought that was tragic, our next celebrity died from a wardrobe malfunction. But first, why not hit that like and subscribe button? It's less dangerous than a prop gun, we promise. Isadora Duncan. This American-born dancer and choreographer revolutionized modern dance, trading rigid ballet for free-flowing movement. Isadora danced across Europe and America, inspiring audiences and scandalizing conservatives. She was the original dance like nobody's watching specialist. Except everyone was watching and judging, and sometimes fainting. But on September 14, 1927, in Nice, France, Isadora decided to take her dramatic flair to new heights. She always said her dancing was about freedom of movement. Well, her scarf certainly took that philosophy to heart, freeing itself right into the axle of the open-top car she was driving and strangling her in the process. Eric Fleming. Eric started out as a tough guy, Navy man, construction worker, and finally Hollywood's favorite trail boss on Rawhide. For 8 years, he had America believing he could wrangle anything with a pulse. But oops, water doesn't have a pulse. On September 28, 1966, Fleming moseyed down to Peru, probably thinking, jungles, prairies, what's the difference? Turns out, quite a lot. 6 weeks into filming, he went paddling down the Huallaga River with co-star Nico Minardos. 1 minute they're floating along, next thing their canoe does the best impression of Titanic. While Minardos swam to safety, Fleming, the man who's spent years yelling, "Head 'em up, move 'em out," regrettably couldn't head himself out of the current. He was 41. Natalie Wood. Born in 1938, Natalie Wood was an American actress who sailed from child star to Hollywood icon. She dazzled in Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story, proving she could sing, dance, and act. A real triple threat. However, on November 29, 1981, Wood decided to take a midnight cruise off Catalina Island. The aftermath was a detective's nightmare and a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. Bruises on her body? Check. Conflicting testimonies? Double check. A Hollywood cover-up? Who knows? But it wouldn't be the first time Tinseltown swept something under the rug, or in this case, under the waves. Officials called it an accidental drowning, but the whispers never quite dried up. Bula Bondi. Bondi had a long and distinguished career in film, television, and theater. She was born in 1888 and began her acting career on the stage before transitioning to film in the 1930s. This American actress was known for often playing motherly or elderly characters, even when she was relatively young. Her acting was so convincing that even the Academy bought into her elderly act twice, nominating her for Best Supporting Actress. She went from the gorgeous hussy to Of Human Hearts, though her own heart probably wasn't feeling too gorgeous after those losses. In It's a Wonderful Life, she played James Stewart's mother, because nothing says wonderful like having a mom who looks old enough to be your great-grandmother. She continued defying age expectations well into her actual golden years, getting an Emmy at 89 for The Waltons. But in 1981, at the age of 92, Bondi tripped over her cat. The fall broke her ribs and finally led to her death due to the pulmonary complications that followed. Tennessee Williams. Thomas Lanier Williams III, born on March 26, 1911, in Columbus, Mississippi, was a legendary playwright whose works like A Streetcar Named Desire and The Glass Menagerie redefined American theater. He won 2 Pulitzer Prizes and was inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame. But in a fittingly tragic twist worthy of his own dramas, Williams met his end on February 25, 1983, in New York City. The 71-year-old American playwright was found dead in his hotel in New York after choking to death on a, hold on, plastic bottle cap? Dang. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee, son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, was set to soar as Hollywood's next big action star. With his breakout role in The Crow, he was ready to spread his wings and fly into the spotlight. Unfortunately, he ended up taking a more permanent flight instead. Lee's on-screen death scene turned all too real. On March 31, 1993, during the filming of The Crow, art imitated life a bit too closely when a scene calling for Lee's character to be shot went horrifyingly off-script. Turns out, the prop gun had a surprise in store. A bullet stuck in the chamber, playing hide-and-seek with the crew's safety protocols. Lee's performance was so powerful, it shot him straight into the afterlife. He didn't just play a man returning from the dead, he became one. Michael Kennedy. Born into American royalty on February 27, 1958, Michael Kennedy was destined for greatness, or at least that's what the Kennedy curse would have you believe. As the 6th of 11 Kennedy kids, Michael probably thought he'd dodged the family appetite for tragedy. Turns out, he was just waiting his turn. Michael made his mark managing citizens' energy. Not all Kennedys are fueled by political ambition and scandal. Some prefer heating oil and good deeds. How refreshing. Tragically, in 1997, Michael decided to trade the boardroom for the slopes of Aspen. Apparently, he took the phrase branch out a bit too seriously and went skiing. One moment he's carving up the powder. The next, he's George of the Jungle with a pine tree, and he did not watch out for that tree. Michael was 39 years old. Let's fly over to our next celebrity who really knew how to ruffle some feathers. Rod Hull. The man who pecked his way to fame with a puppet who couldn't even fly. Emu and Rod became the dynamic duo of disturbance, terrorizing talk shows from Parkinson to Johnny Carson. Who knew a man with his hand up a bird's backside could rise so high? Rod and his feathered friend ruled British TV in the 70s and 80s. They even graced the Royal Variety Show. However, on March 17, 1999, Rod decided to take on a different kind of bird, the aerial kind. It was halftime during a Champions League match, Man United versus Inter Milan. While most fans would just grab a pint, Rod went onto the roof of his bungalow in Winchelsea, East Sussex. His mission? To adjust the TV aerial. Apparently, Emu wasn't the only thing in his life that needed constant adjustment. Sadly, Rod slipped and crashed through his greenhouse. He was 63. Speaking of falls from grace, Charmaine Maxwell. Born in Guyana, raised on music, Charmaine Maxwell climbed the charts with Brownstone in the 90s. Her career was full of high notes, and it ended on a very, very sharp note. Her last performance was solo in her LA kitchen on February 28, 2015. She went from If You Love Me to If You Pour Me after she tripped and fell backwards and right onto the wine glass, slitting her throat in the process. When life hands you lemons, make lemonade. When life hands you wine, maybe just set it down slowly. Charmaine Maxwell was 46. Anton Yelchin. This American actor went from melting hearts in Hearts in Atlantis to boldly going where no Chekhov had gone before in Star Trek Reboot. He could tackle any role, well, almost any role. His performance in Fright Night remake showed he could handle horror stories with ease, but sadly, not his own horror story. In 2016, Yelchin decided to check his mail, a decision that would stamp out his rising career for good. Apparently, his car wasn't content with being a supporting actor in his life. The parked vehicle rolled down the driveway, pinning Yelchin against a fence in what could only be described as the world's deadliest hug, crushing the actor to death. These stars shone brightly in their respective fields, bringing joy, inspiration, and art to countless fans. While their endings may have been unexpected or even ironic, it's their lives and work that truly deserve our attention and respect. Until next time, keep your wits about you and don't lose your head, or your scarf, or your footing, or your common sense around prop guns.